Liam Turner sat alone in his luxurious mansion, the streetlights shining through the large windows, casting faint shadows on the polished wooden floor. The crystal chandelier hanging from the ceiling reflected every glimmer of light, making the space even more mystical. Every corner of the house exuded beauty and opulence. Expensive furniture, famous paintings, valuable wine collections. All these were symbols of success. But Liam, despite having it all, felt himself slowly sinking into a deep hole of emptiness. He was a renowned architect, the founder of Hargrove Architecture, a company with major projects not only domestically but globally. Each project was a solid step in his career. Each contract signed a reinforcement of his standing in the industry. The high society parties, meetings with renowned investors, luxurious business trips. These were nothing new to Liam, just routines ingrained in his life. People always called him a successful man, but there was one thing he felt more clearly than ever: the sense of absence. This feeling could not be explained in words, but it was clearly present in every moment Liam experienced. He walked into the large living room of his house, looking out the big window at the city. The streetlights sparkled like scattered stars on the ground. Everything was perfect, but was that all? Liam asked himself. The people around him, his partners, his colleagues, all admired him. They praised his company, his great successes in the field, and the luxury items he owned. But none of them understood what he was truly feeling. He felt like a stone statue in the middle of a boulevard, strong and certain, but completely soulless. Because behind the perfection, behind every party, every meeting with top investors, was a deep emptiness in his soul. Every morning when he woke up, Liam asked himself, "What am I living for?" Was all of this just a game to satisfy his ego, to prove that he could achieve everything in life? Was he racing with himself, not knowing what the destination was? In his vast mansion, there was no one beside him. Only the cold walls and expensive items, none of which could fill the void in his soul. Every dinner, Liam sat alone. The high-end meals, the fine wine, all became meaningless when there was no one to share them with. He once had a family, but work took everything away. He had friends once, but now they were just names in his phone book, and no one truly cared about him beyond the work benefits. He had never felt so alone. This feeling did not come overnight. It had been smoldering in him for a long time, beginning when he was a young man, eager to step into the challenging world of architecture. Back then, Liam had big dreams, a strong desire to prove himself. He worked tirelessly, diving into every project, signing every contract to build an empire. And then, after many years of striving, he had everything that people considered signs of success: money, power, fame. However, all of that only made him realize one thing: success could create an outwardly perfect life, but it lacked real values. Liam recalled the first time he visited his first construction project. Back then, he was an architecture student with idealistic dreams. He saw towering buildings, projects that he had spent so many years drawing up, executing. At that time, he felt full of pride and passion. But now, when he looked back at those projects, the sense of pride was no longer there. They were just lifeless walls, cold concrete blocks with no emotions lingering. And all he was doing now was continuing to build a world that no longer made sense to him. Every morning when Liam woke up, he felt like he was waking up in a movie where everything was already scripted. He attended meetings, signed major contracts, and then returned home to a pile of unfinished work. But he didn't feel excited, didn't feel enthusiastic. Something inside him had grown weary, had died out. A passion that once burned brightly in his heart was now just ash. He asked himself whether his life was just a string of meaningless days, an endless race with no end point. In the evening, when Liam stood by the window, gazing at the city, he felt the stillness surrounding him. The world outside still buzzed, full of people struggling and searching for a purpose. But Liam felt like he was standing somewhere else, detached from all of that. He couldn't share this feeling with anyone, because even if he did, no one would understand him. No one truly knew the loneliness in a world filled with people. Liam's life, from the inside out, from his career to his relationships, lacked nothing. But it was precisely these things that created a life full of absence. And so he began to search for something different, a new challenge, a reason to live, not just to exist, but to feel, to change. But would he find it? Could Liam escape the cycle of material success and find the true values he was missing? The answer could only be revealed in the days ahead, as he gradually realized that life was not just about numbers or contracts, but about living real moments, living with purpose and passion. Liam couldn't shake off the feeling of emptiness, even though the meetings filled his mind or the lavish parties could somewhat soothe him. One evening, as he walked into one of the annual high society parties, where the glittering chandeliers and the loud laughter echoed in the luxurious space, Liam felt like a part of a big machine. He smiled, greeted his old friends and familiar partners, but in their eyes, he recognized something he could not deny: the emptiness. Everyone around him had their own glow. They appeared happy, but Liam knew that none of them truly understood him. Conversations revolved around contracts, new projects, and trips to distant countries, but Liam could no longer feel joy in those discussions. Everything had become hollow and meaningless in his eyes. Then, amidst the crowd, a familiar voice called out, "Liam, still the same? Everything perfect." Liam turned and met the gaze of Alex, an old friend he hadn't seen in a while. Alex, who had once made grand plans with him back in college, had now become successful in the investment field. The only difference now was that Alex's smugness couldn't hide the sharpness in his eyes and the knowing smile on his lips. Liam couldn't help but smile upon seeing his old friend. The sense of familiarity and memories from their student days suddenly flooded his heart. They had once been ambitious young men, always seeking challenges and affirmation. But now, between the two, there was an undeniable distance. "Still the same," Liam replied. "Try to maintain a casual tone. Everything's fine. It's just everything seems to not have changed much." Alex raised an eyebrow, looking at Liam closely as if he had spotted something wrong in his friend's eyes. "What do you mean? You can talk to me, Liam. I've seen many people in this world, people who have everything but feel like they're missing something. Are you feeling like that?" Liam didn't answer immediately, his feelings showing clearly through his words and gestures. Alex, with the subtlety of someone who had been through it, had seen right through him. "Let me guess. You have money, fame, and a growing company. But you still feel like something's missing, right?" Alex continued, not waiting for Liam to answer. "You have it all, but nothing really feels valuable to you. You don't know what you're living for anymore." Liam felt Alex's words like sharp mockery, but he couldn't deny the truth in them. He nodded, realizing he couldn't escape this feeling any longer. "So, what do you think I should do?" Liam asked, his voice dropping. Alex looked at him for a moment and then smiled wisely. "I have a challenge for you, Liam. A challenge that I believe will help you find the answer for yourself." Liam was slightly surprised. "A challenge? Are you joking?" "No, I'm serious," Alex replied. "You think you've seen all that life can offer, but I don't think so. Have you ever tried doing something with no measurable result? Doing something with no proof, just because you really want to do it?" Liam furrowed his brow. "What do you mean?" Alex sat down next to Liam, looking him in the eyes with an expression full of meaning. You've never challenged yourself, have you? You always take the easy paths, things that can be measured, things you can control. But I think you need to try doing something where the outcome is unpredictable. You need a challenge that you can't control to understand what you really need. Liam felt a sense of curiosity rising inside him. So, what's this challenge? Alex smiled with confidence in his eyes. Marry someone who doesn't belong to your world. Marry someone you can't control, can't manage, someone completely different from you. I'm not talking about a normal marriage. I'm talking about a marriage you'll have to maintain for at least 6 months. Do you have the ability to do that? Liam was taken aback. This was a challenge he had never thought about. Marrying someone he couldn't control? A marriage not for material gain or fame. Liam felt a strange thrill from Alex's words. This was the challenge he needed, an opportunity to step out of his comfort zone. You're challenging me to marry someone I don't know anything about. Liam asked again, still not fully believing what he had just heard. Exactly, Alex replied, smiling knowingly. And if you succeed, I'll invest $50 million in your company, no strings attached. But if you fail, your reputation, the man who always wins, will be destroyed completely. Liam thought for a moment. This was a challenge unlike any he had ever faced. Did he have enough courage to do this? Could he step out of his own shadow, do something uncontrollable just to figure out who he really was? With a determined look, Liam finally replied, "All right, I accept." Alex smiled, knowing he had planted a challenge in Liam's heart that would change everything. Liam had no idea that this challenge wasn't just a game, but would open up a completely new path, a journey he had never imagined. Liam spent several days thinking about the challenge that Alex had set for him. The initial excitement gradually gave way to anxiety. He was someone who was used to controlling everything in his life. From work to relationships, Liam was always the one making decisions, the only one who could chart the course and manage every situation. But the marriage Alex suggested was not a path that could be calculated, nor was it a marriage like any other that he could manipulate or control. This was a game he wouldn't be able to control, and that was what made Liam uneasy. He didn't know who he would meet. How could he find a woman who was completely different from anyone he had ever known? Someone who wasn't the kind of perfect woman by the societal standards he was accustomed to. Someone who wouldn't make him feel like he was living in a world full of power and control. He knew he would have to find someone who didn't belong to his system. Not someone beautiful, seductive, and expensive dresses, but someone entirely different. When he began searching for candidates, Liam scrolled through countless profiles, but none of them sparked any connection. The women on the list were all beautiful faces, young and charming girls, ready to step into his world with their elegant outfits and perfect smiles. But all these things only made Liam more confused. He needed a challenge, something completely different. Then, by chance, he saw her. Emily Parker, a name not too unfamiliar, but one that carried an intrigue Liam couldn't explain. She wasn't the woman he would think of when imagining a marriage. She was a black woman with a full figure, unlike the modern, seductive women Liam had known. Her appearance, with natural hair and the distinctive traits of a strong woman, wasn't the kind of beauty in a traditional sense. But that was what strangely drew Liam to her. Emily wasn't the type of person who could easily blend into the world of the wealthy. She was a carpenter running a nonprofit organization that built homes for low-income families. She didn't care about money or luxury. In a world where everything could be bought with money, Emily was someone who always stood by those who had nothing, those who needed help the most. Liam had read about her organization and a few stories about the projects she had carried out. The houses she built were not just simple homes. They were places that brought hope to the poor, giving them a true sense of home. While Liam was used to monumental projects, skyscrapers for the elite, Emily dedicated her life to doing small but incredibly important things for those in need. That was what made Liam feel challenged. Without hesitation, he arranged a meeting with Emily, telling her he wanted to collaborate with her organization to help build homes for struggling families. When Emily walked into his office, Liam couldn't help but notice the stark contrast between her and the women he usually met. She dressed simply, with radiant natural hair and a strong beauty that didn't require elaborate makeup. She didn't greet him with a polite smile or a gentle handshake, but just gently extended her hand with a look of caution. "Mr. Turner, thank you for taking the time to meet with me," Emily said, her voice calm and without a hint of subservience or fear. Liam smiled, but the feeling didn't come from the excitement he usually felt in meetings with other women. It was an unfamiliar feeling, as if he was standing in front of a wall he couldn't break. "Thank you for coming, Emily. I know your work is very important, and I want to help. Let me introduce a project we're working on," Liam began, but quickly realized he was speaking too much, and his tone lacked the persuasion he was skilled at in his profession. Emily silently looked at him, as if waiting for something. When Liam mentioned the idea of collaborating and providing financial support for her organization, Emily didn't seem excited or grateful. Instead, she asked with a cold gaze, "Why me? Why not larger organizations? Ones that could help me more?" Liam was a little surprised, but he had mentally prepared for such questions. "Because I want to do this. I think it's the right thing. I want to use my resources to help others. And I believe that a little difference from me can have a bigger impact." She looked at him for a long moment, as if evaluating every word he said. Then Emily slowly responded, "If you really want to help, it shouldn't be through money or fame. Help should come from understanding what people are going through, not just adding another brick to a building that's already been built." Liam felt like he had been transported into a world he didn't know. Emily's words were a strong slap against the values he once held as right. This wasn't just a meeting to sign a contract. This was a real challenge. A challenge he didn't know how to overcome. As the conversation drew to a close, Liam realized he hadn't just come to sign a contract. He had come to face something he couldn't control, and that was the feeling he had been missing for so long. The feeling of change. Emily left without changing her attitude. Liam stood there, stunned, not knowing whether he could complete this challenge. But one thing was clear. He had entered a marriage not for money, but for something greater than himself. Liam and Emily's lives couldn't be more different. On one side, there was a man who had reached the peak of his career, living in a luxurious world he had built from grand dreams. On the other, there was a simple woman, living in a world where every day was a battle to help the poor, those who had nothing but hope and small dreams. And now, these two worlds were thrust into an unwanted marriage, a shared life neither of them knew would take them anywhere. After the wedding, Liam and Emily had no communication beyond work. They lived together in a house that felt unfamiliar to both of them. Liam's mansion was a place she never imagined stepping into. To Emily, it felt like an overly extravagant palace, where expensive items held no real value. Meanwhile, Liam felt awkward stepping into the small apartment Emily had lived in for the past few years. To him, it was a cramped, impoverished space, but one that held values he couldn't easily explain. Each day passed, and they lived in different spaces but under the same roof. Emily worked at her nonprofit, dedicating time to housing projects and community development. Liam spent most of his time at the office, solving company issues, seeking new contracts, and investing in large projects. They didn't interact much beyond brief work-related meetings, and in the evenings, both usually ate dinner alone in silence. Liam couldn't deny that Emily was a special woman, but she was a threat to everything he had known. She wasn't affected by money, power, or fame, things Liam had always considered important in life. She worked tirelessly to build a better future for the poor, but she didn't care for recognition or enjoying her achievements. While Liam found happiness in the massive projects he created, Emily found joy in helping a family have a new home. One evening, when Liam returned home after a long day at work, he found Emily sitting in the small living room, intently looking at a pile of documents. The papers, blueprints, and construction projects scattered across the table made Liam feel out of place. He couldn't understand why she could devote her entire focus to these things without caring about the luxury he could offer her. "You're working again?" Liam asked, leaning against the living room doorframe. His question wasn't one of concern, just a simple remark as he saw her putting all her energy into something he didn't understand. Emily looked up, her dark eyes shining under the light, and she just smiled gently. "There's no rest in this work, Liam. These people need me," she replied, without any hint of stress or fatigue. In her voice, there was something Liam couldn't explain, a sense of satisfaction and peace he had never felt. Liam felt an odd sensation, an unease he had never experienced. He had lived through expensive meetings, glamorous parties, but now, standing in this small house, he watched her focus on work for a reason he couldn't fully grasp. "Don't you feel tired?" he asked, unable to control his curiosity. Emily paused, then smiled lightly. "Tired? What's tired when you see children getting a new home? When families no longer have to live in dilapidated houses? Liam, my life isn't about rest. It's about helping those who need help." Liam went silent. He didn't know how to respond. While he was fussing over building skyscrapers for the rich, Emily spent her life doing small yet significant things for the poor. Her values, her priorities in life, were completely opposite to what he once thought mattered. And though he didn't want to admit it, Liam began to feel like an outsider in his own life. Every morning, Liam woke up, looked out the large window, and saw the lights shining from the city below. He continued his work, but every time he saw Emily working, he felt an indescribable emptiness. Was what he was doing just part of a power game, while Emily was doing something truly meaningful? Liam and Emily's worlds were two that couldn't easily mix. One side was the opulence and grandeur of monumental projects, million-dollar contracts. On the other were simple people, quiet work full of love and sharing. Though they lived under the same roof, their hearts seemed to belong to two different worlds. Liam didn't know where this marriage would lead him, but one thing was clear. He had entered a life where everything was beyond his control, and that made him feel uneasy. This life was no longer a game that could be controlled. But would Liam have the courage to explore what awaited him as he stepped into a world he had never known before? The following days passed in silence and exhaustion. Liam began to notice the growing differences between him and Emily. While he was still immersed in his work, managing the company with lavish projects, meetings with top-tier partners, Emily dedicated her mind completely to community-building work. She participated in volunteer activities, paying attention to every detail in housing projects for low-income families. For Emily, her work wasn't just a job. It was a mission, the reason she woke up every morning. One day, Emily informed Liam that she would be visiting one of the city's impoverished areas to check on the progress of the construction work for low-income families. She invited Liam to join, but he wasn't very eager. He couldn't understand why he should spend time in such a miserable place, where he felt there was nothing he could contribute. "Liam, would you like to come with me? I know you're busy, but this is an opportunity for you to see what really matters," Emily said, her voice soft but determined. Liam shrugged, unwilling to refuse, but also lacking the motivation to participate. I don't think it's necessary. You go ahead, I've got a lot to do. Emily didn't say anything else, only smiled and walked out. But before leaving, she turned back and looked at him one more time, her eyes seeming to convey something Liam couldn't understand. And then she left, leaving Liam alone in the empty mansion, with an unsettling feeling he couldn't shake. When Liam arrived at the office that day, he couldn't concentrate on his work. A strange sensation kept lingering, and he began questioning whether he was doing the right thing, whether what he was pursuing really had any meaning. He had worked so hard to build an empire, but now, faced with Emily's life, he wasn't sure about what he had achieved. A few days later, Liam decided to take a morning off work and visit the area where Emily was working. He wanted to see the reality she had dedicated her life to changing. He didn't know why he was going there, but there was a strong urge in his heart, as if this was his only opportunity to truly understand Emily's life and the lives of the people she was helping. When Liam arrived, he was overwhelmed. The neighborhood was nothing like he had imagined. The streets were suffocated by dilapidated houses, abandoned gardens, and children running around in muddy dirt paths. The scene left him stunned. Everything here was impoverished and lacking, and the people living there seemed to be struggling with life every single day. The smell of dampness from homes barely surviving under the harsh weather and the sounds of a life filled with hardship made him feel lost. Emily was standing in the middle of a crowd of locals, guiding them on how to rebuild the decaying houses. Workers were tirelessly assembling parts of the new homes, while volunteers handed out food and water. There was a sense of urgency, but filled with resilience. Liam stood quietly to the side, observing everything. He saw an old man with silver hair pulling heavy bricks. Sweat dripped down his face, but his eyes showed no sign of weariness. Liam looked around and noticed that everyone here had a story, a reason to continue living, even though they were working under extremely difficult conditions. As Liam moved closer, Emily noticed his presence. She walked over with a light smile. "You came?" she asked, her voice gentle but still firm. Liam couldn't hide his surprise and the mixed emotions within him. "You didn't tell me how difficult it is here." He shook his head, his voice choked. "How do you manage all this every day?" Emily looked at him, her gaze deep, as if she had been ready for this question for a long time. "Because this is real life. This is what I face every day. The people here have nothing but hope that there will be a better future. I don't do this work to change the world, but to change a small part of their lives." Liam felt like he had been awakened. He looked around again and realized that everything in his life seemed like a part of a game, where he always thought he could control everything. But here, in this poor neighborhood, he couldn't do anything to change it. These people didn't need skyscrapers or million-dollar contracts. They just needed a chance to live, to survive. Emily added, "There's a family here. They've lived in their crumbling house for over 20 years. They just need a roof to protect them from the rain and the sun. But they don't have the means to rebuild. That's why my work is important. Because every house I help build, every life I help change, gives them a new opportunity." Liam couldn't speak. He stood there, feeling a wave of shame rising inside him. His grand projects, the lavish homes he had built, seemed to have no value when compared to what Emily was doing. This was the truth he had never wanted to face, that the things he deemed important were not what these people truly needed. When he left the poor area, Liam felt like he had just experienced a storm in his mind. The questions piled up, the emotions he had never felt in his life. He looked at Emily talking with the locals, and for the first time, he felt true respect for her. She wasn't just changing houses, she was changing the lives of each person here, one step at a time. And that, though not measurable in money, was a change more valuable than anything Liam could offer. That day, when he got home, Liam couldn't stop thinking about what he had witnessed. He was not only shocked by the hardships of the people there, but also by himself. Why hadn't he seen these simple values earlier? Why had he been so absorbed in luxury while this world needed something far more practical and grounded? Liam's life had begun to change, but would he have enough courage to face the greater challenges he had set for himself? The answer would only be revealed when he decided to truly do something meaningful with his life. Liam woke up the next morning with a feeling completely different from every other morning before. He couldn't clearly remember the details of his sleep the previous night, but the images of the poor neighborhood, the dilapidated houses he had seen, and the hopeful eyes of the people there were still vividly imprinted in his mind. The feeling of unease and uncertainty that he had experienced for so long had now transformed into a strong urge. An urge he could no longer ignore. He couldn't go back to his old life, where he was obsessed with seeking power and wealth. He had realized that those things no longer mattered if they couldn't change the real lives of others. As Liam walked into the bathroom and looked in the mirror, he felt as though he was looking at a stranger. He saw a man who had it all: fame, money, success, but also a man who had never truly known what it was like to live a meaningful life. Recently, every time he thought about Emily and the work she did, he felt ashamed. She was a woman living for things he had never been able to understand. She worked not for money, not for recognition, but for those who truly needed help. Liam decided to go to his office earlier than usual, but not to deal with the company's issues as usual. He had planned a change, a turning point not only for his company, but for his entire life. He would begin changing the way he viewed everything. He would no longer live for numbers and contracts. He would live for a greater purpose, one that could create real change for those who needed it most. When Liam entered his office, his assistant, Samantha, looked at him in surprise. "Good morning, Liam. You're early today. Is something wrong?" Liam looked at her, his eyes bright with determination. "Samantha, I want to change the way the company operates. We're going to start a new project. A project not for profit, but for real change." Samantha raised an eyebrow, not fully understanding him. "What kind of project is that, sir?" Liam smiled lightly, but didn't answer immediately. He stood there, looking out the office window, where the entire city of Manhattan stretched beneath the morning light. He felt as if he was standing before a major crossroads in his life, where everything he once thought was important now seemed trivial. "A community help project," Liam said, his voice firm. "We're going to start investing in nonprofit organizations, in housing projects for low-income families. We'll help the impoverished not for personal gain, but because I believe our company can truly make a difference." Samantha looked at him, her eyes sparkling with surprise and curiosity. "So, you want us to do charity work now? But our company—" "Yes," Liam interrupted without hesitation. "We're not just going to build skyscrapers anymore. We'll build homes for those who need them the most. And I'll start by investing in small projects from small communities." Liam knew that this was a move many in the company wouldn't understand, but he was determined. He didn't just want to change the way the company operated. He wanted to change himself. He wanted to live for the values he had never realized before. Over the next few weeks, Liam spent most of his time learning about and researching the housing project for the poor that Emily had been leading. He visited the projects she oversaw and met the people she had helped. Each trip, each story he heard, made him feel a new sense of belief growing in his heart. He couldn't believe he had lived so long without understanding these values. On a visit to a new project that Emily was managing, Liam felt a significant change within himself. He no longer saw just physical buildings. He began to see the lives, the dreams, and hopes of the people in their new homes. He saw children playing in front of their gates, families moving into new homes without fear of poverty. Each house wasn't just a construction. It was an important step toward changing their lives. When he returned to the office, his resolve was even stronger. He began working with his team to implement community projects, to make changes within the company. He shifted Hargrove's entire strategy, no longer just focusing on high-end real estate contracts, but also seeking out community development projects. He knew this was a long road, a challenge not easily won, but he understood it was something he had to do. One day, while working with Emily on a construction site, Liam turned to her and said, "Do you ever think that your work could change a person, Emily?" Emily looked at him, her gaze gentle yet full of conviction. "My work is just a small part of this life, Liam. But if it can change one person, then that's the reason I work every day. As for you, I see that you've changed." Liam smiled, a feeling of pride swelling in his chest. He had changed, and that wasn't just a step forward in his career, it was a step forward in his life. The change began with one simple decision, a decision not to change the world, but to change himself. And from now on, every step he took would carry a greater purpose, helping those around him, those he had never noticed before. Liam couldn't deny that the change within him had truly begun. Each day, he worked not for money or fame anymore, but for what could actually make a real difference in the lives of others. He had seen the people who really needed help, people he had never considered before meeting Emily. But at the same time, Liam knew that no matter what he did, he still carried a big secret, a truth he couldn't hide forever. Their life, Liam and Emily's, continued in the quiet of an unwanted marriage. Even though he had tried to change, the cracks in their relationship were still there. Emily, though acknowledging his transformation, couldn't forget the real reason behind their marriage. She couldn't forget that they had married because of a challenge Liam had accepted from a friend. She couldn't forget that Liam came to her not for love, but for his own pride, wanting to prove that he could overcome any challenge. And although he was changing, the old wounds had not yet healed. Liam clearly felt the distance between them. Every time he looked at Emily, he saw her smile, but it was a smile that wasn't complete. She didn't say anything, but he could see that her heart still had room for doubt. And Liam knew that nothing could replace the truth about the reason they married, the truth about a past he had never revealed to her, a truth he had hidden for so long, not because he didn't love Emily, but because he feared it would destroy everything he was trying to build. One evening, as they sat in the living room, a silence enveloped them. Emily set her book down and looked at Liam. There was an unusual stillness in the air, a silence full of anticipation, as though something big was about to happen. "Liam," Emily spoke, her voice soft but striking into his mind like a slap. "Can you tell me, why are we here?" Liam froze. He hadn't expected Emily to ask this question. She had always seemed strong and resilient, but this question felt like a spark, something he had been trying to hide. Liam looked at Emily, her eyes coldly sharp, as if she already knew the answer but still wanted to hear it from him. "What's your question?" Liam asked, his voice sounding unfamiliar. "Why do we get married?" Emily asked directly, without hesitation. "You must still remember that challenge, right? The challenge from Alex. You challenged yourself to marry me just for a game. And now you talk to me about change, about what you're doing for the community, but I can't forget that we started with a lie." Liam sighed, feeling his heart tighten. He knew the time had come, the time to face the truth. He had always wanted to avoid it, but now Emily had made it clear and strong. And he knew, if he didn't speak up, everything would remain hidden forever, and that would destroy everything he had built. Liam stood up, walked over to the window, and looked outside. The city lights couldn't ease the pain in his heart. "I agreed to marry you for a foolish reason, Emily," he began, his voice low. "At that time, I just wanted to prove that I could do anything. It was a challenge from an old friend, and I accepted it just out of pride, not love. Emily didn't say anything. She just silently watched him. She knew it was the truth, but her heart couldn't accept it yet. Liam continued, his hands trembling as he held the wine glass. I was wrong. I didn't understand what love was until you came into my life. I didn't understand that love isn't a challenge, but a bond, a sacrifice, and empathy. I treated you like a part of my game, but you were never a game. Emily stood up, her eyes still cold, but there was a slight softness in them. You came to me for the wrong reason, Liam. But you know what? No matter what, I did all of this for the work, for the people I care about. I don't need an apology. I just need to know if you've really changed. Do you have the courage to face yourself and take responsibility for what you've done? Liam felt like everything around him had come to a halt. Emily's question was like a knife cutting into his mind. He knew he had to face the truth, not just to heal the wound in their relationship, but to face himself. I can't change the past, Emily. I can't change the reason we married, but I can change the future. I will prove to you that I'm not just doing this for the challenge. I'm doing it for you, for what you're doing for this world. And if you give me a chance, I will do anything to make up for my mistakes. Emily didn't say anything. She just stood there looking at him. She could feel the sincerity in Liam's words, but she also knew that his change wouldn't be easy and it couldn't be simplified into promises. We'll see. Actions speak louder than words, she said, and then turned and walked away, leaving Liam standing alone, facing his own truth. The truth had been revealed, and Liam knew that to win Emily's heart, he would have to prove that his change wasn't just empty words. He had to prove that he was ready to accept his mistakes and truly do what was right. Their story wasn't over yet, and a new journey, full of challenges and hope, was beginning. Liam stood silently in the dark room, the faint light from the street lamps outside shining in as if to remind him that this was an important moment. He had opened his heart to Emily, confessed the truth that he had buried for so long. But, as Emily had said, words cannot erase the past. Instead, actions are what shape the future. The next day, Liam decided that he wouldn't make grand gestures or seek attention, but instead start with small actions that he believed could make a real difference. He met with the partners at his company, changing the direction of Hargrove, not just focusing on extravagant projects and million-dollar contracts, but initiating community projects, building homes for low-income families, and investing in initiatives to help the poor. Everyone at the company was surprised by his change. The man who had always valued profit, now giving attention to social issues. But Liam didn't care about their skeptical looks. He had made his decision. This was the path he would take, not only for the community, but also for himself. He began working alongside Emily on the construction projects, not just standing by directing, but actually working with the workers and volunteers. The long working days, the evenings spent poring over blueprints and plans, helped him find satisfaction not from big contracts, but from seeing the change in the lives of the people he was helping. The newly built houses were not just physical structures, but beacons of hope for the poor, real changes in their lives. Liam started feeling a strong connection to the people he had once considered unimportant. The children running around in the new homes, the mothers smiling as they watched their children no longer living in deprivation. These people, despite their hardships, showed him that in life, care, empathy, and love were what truly mattered. However, these changes didn't come easily. While Liam felt the transformation slowly taking place, Emily remained hesitant. She knew that even though Liam had changed a lot, the old wounds hadn't healed. She still kept her distance, not fully opening her heart to him, because she didn't want to be hurt again. One evening, after a long day at the construction site, Liam stood next to Emily, both of them looking at the houses that were slowly being completed. The atmosphere was silent, but there was something special in the air. Liam knew he couldn't just stand there and hope things would change without taking action. Emily, Liam began, his voice gentle but full of determination. I know I can't erase the past, but I want you to know that what I'm doing is not just for me. I'm doing this for you, for what you've taught me about life, about real values. I've found a part of myself I never knew existed, and I want to continue that journey, not just in work, but in life. Emily looked at Liam, her eyes softening for a moment, but still filled with doubt. She had seen him change, but was it real change or just a fleeting spark? Liam, I don't easily believe words, but I won't stop seeing your actions, Emily replied, her gaze firm. If you've truly changed, you'll have to prove it not with promises, but with perseverance and patience. Liam nodded, his eyes shining with hope. I'll do that, Emily. I will never give up. From then on, their relationship started to take solid steps forward. Emily gradually opened up more to Liam, seeing sincerity in his actions. Although she still couldn't fully trust him, each day, seeing Liam working with the community, seeing him continuously strive for change, she began to realize that maybe he really had changed. With Emily's support and his own commitment, Liam continued to lead his company into meaningful projects. He wasn't just building houses, he was rebuilding himself. No longer a man chasing after material wealth and power, but a man living with true and lasting values. Slowly, the relationship between Liam and Emily also began to change. No more doubts, no more invisible walls between them, but real connection. Together, they moved towards mornings filled with dreams about a future not only for themselves, but for the people they were helping. Despite the challenges ahead, Liam knew he had found the right path, one that led him to himself and to Emily. And from then on, they were no longer two lonely people in this world. They were partners in a journey of change, together looking towards a future based not just on personal achievements, but on sharing, love, and contributing to the community. The houses, the smiles of the poor families, these were the results of a long journey, not just to change the world outside, but to change themselves. The story of Liam and Emily is not only a journey of love, but also a journey of self-discovery and finding the true values of life. Liam, a man who has reached the peak of his career, possessing everything that society sees as symbols of prosperity, money, power, fame, yet lives in loneliness and emptiness. Despite having a successful company and a life full of luxury, he cannot find real meaning in what he is pursuing. For all these years, Liam has been racing against himself, always trying to prove his self-worth through numbers, contracts, and material success. However, everything changed when he met Emily, a woman who is simple yet strong. Emily does not live for money or fame, but for real values, things Liam had never thought about. She dedicates her life to helping the poor, the needy, and that's what makes Liam confront a harsh truth. His life until now has lacked the core values of human connection, sacrifice, and true empathy for others. When Liam begins to change, he not only changes the way he views work and life, but transforms the purpose of his existence. He no longer chases big contracts or luxurious projects. Instead, he finds real joy in helping the needy, in witnessing the changes in the lives of the people he has helped. The new houses he builds are not just physical structures, but symbols of hope, real changes in the lives of those people. Liam starts to feel a strong connection with the people he once considered unimportant. Children running around in their new homes, mothers smiling as they watch their children no longer living in poverty. These people, despite their difficult circumstances, show him that in life, care, empathy, and love are what truly matter. However, these changes don't come easily. While Liam feels the transformation unfolding, Emily remains cautious. She knows that although Liam has changed a lot, the old wounds haven't healed yet. She still keeps her distance, not fully opening her heart to him, because she doesn't want to be hurt again. One afternoon, after a long day at the construction site, Liam stands beside Emily, both of them looking at the houses that are slowly taking shape. The atmosphere is quiet, yet there's something special about it. Liam knows he can't just stand there and hope everything changes without acting. Emily, Liam begins, his voice soft but full of determination. I know I can't erase the past, but I want you to know that what I'm doing isn't just for me. I'm doing this for you, for what you've taught me about life, about real value. I found a part of myself I never knew, and I want to continue that journey, not just in work but in life. Emily looks at Liam, her eyes softening slightly, but still full of doubt. She has seen him change, but is this change real or just a passing moment? Liam, I don't easily trust words, but I won't stop watching your actions, Emily replies, her gaze unwavering. If you've truly changed, you'll have to prove it not with promises, but with persistence and patience. Liam nods, his eyes filled with hope. I will do that, Emily. I'll never give up. From then on, their relationship began to make steady progress. Emily gradually opened up to Liam, seeing the sincerity in his actions. Although she couldn't fully trust him yet, each day, as she watched Liam work alongside the community, as she saw his continuous efforts to make changes, she realized that perhaps he truly had changed. With Emily's support and his own commitment, Liam continued to lead his company toward meaningful projects. He was no longer just building houses. He was rebuilding himself, not as a man chasing material wealth and power, but as a man living by true and sustainable values. Gradually, Liam and Emily's relationship also began to change. No more doubts, no more invisible walls separating them, but a real connection. They walked into each new morning with dreams of a future, not just for themselves, but for those they were helping. Though challenges still lay ahead, Liam knew that he had found the right path, a path that led him to himself and to Emily. From then on, they were no longer two solitary figures in this world. They were partners in a journey of transformation, together heading toward a future not only based on personal achievements, but on sharing, love, and contributing to the community. The houses, the smiles of the poor families were the result of a long journey, not just to change the world outside, but to change themselves.